either you sink or swim as an entrepreneur. Like, you got to be disciplined to be successful, or you're just going to fail. And I think like without discipline, it's just kind of like marshmallow. It's just kind of like free flow. It's soft. It doesn't really mean anything. It's a labor of love and a love of labor at the same time. You don't necessarily have to peak at 25 years old.
Welcome to the Willpower Podcast. All right, Chris. So something new I've been doing with this podcast is every month I will have a challenge for the listeners. Okay. This month has been hydration has been the goal. So for me, it's been like a gallon every day. I told everyone just like pick your amount. Let's go. With that in mind, I want to get into just like routine and like daily routine, just like the little actions that like make up the bulk of our lives. And so I want to ask you, what's your daily routine like? Like, what does life look like for Chris?
I love that. Usually waking up a little early. So we have 3 kids, one of which is 3. The other 2 are older. They're at 11 and 9, but you can imagine the 3-year-old, he likes to get up quite early, but my day starts early too. So I'm usually up before the rest of the house. I have either online clients that I'll train over FaceTime or Zoom that are people that I've had for a long, long time. And I just kind of like grandfather them to the whole Chris Ryan fitness ecosystem. And so I do several sessions before, probably like even before 8 o'clock. So I usually start at 6, 7, and an 8 o'clock time with different clients along those time frames during the regular work week. And then usually I have some app classes that I'll be shooting live content for, depending on the time of the day. Sometimes mid-morning, and then sometimes early evening, East Coast time hours usually. And that just depends on the day of the week. So usually about 5 or 6 classes. So you can do the math on that. Sometimes I'll double back a class. Sometimes I'll take, 2 days off in a 7-day period, and then I'll shoot like 5 classes or 6 classes over that course of the time frame. And kind of, there's a bunch of analytics I use to figure out like the best day and time and content to use for all the different things, because it's been around for 2 years. So you can kind of see the backlog of what's right. And for me, I try to work out when I can on my own. And it's like running a business. I shoot a lot of content, obviously, whether that's for social media, for the app itself, running a business, going over different programs that I have with different vendors out there on the marketing side, the business side, and then back to like the basics of like hydration, like you just said, making sure that you get enough calories in for the day, the right calories at that point as well. But I think at the end of the day, like, you're running a business. Thankfully, I work from home most days, so I have that luxury. But it ends up making for really long work days too. Like, I might have like a 3 to 3:30 open, so I can see the kids after school for half hour. But I'm also like working really early, and I also work relatively late till probably like 9:30 at night, depending on the day of the week. But I'm able to flex my hours to see a kid's game and that sort of a thing as well for the older kids. Or, if I have a 20-minute break to see our little one when he gets home from preschool, and like, eat a quick bite with him or toss the ball with him or something like that. Like, try to be the best dad I can and go for a walk around the block with my wife if she's working from home those days too. So, I feel like it's the right balance for myself as much as possible, but it does make for longer days. But if you're a driven individual, and you love what you do, you end up probably working more often than not. But at least it's not like just a straight like 9 to 5 at a desk for the whole time.
Right. So for the listener, you mentioned like 2 years ago, you started something new. Tell us a little bit about what this ecosystem is. And also I'd be curious, like what, from my understanding, you used to be more of just like a typical one-on-one trainer, correct?
Yeah, give or take from 2010 to 20, I did a lot of in-person sessions in New York, and right in New York City. We lived in New York City, had a great facility that I trained clients out of, built a pretty awesome executive style training business with a lot of heavy hitters in the business world in New York. And then COVID hit, and then the world flipped upside down. But around 2018, I had also had the opportunity to sign on with Mirror, which was bought up by Lululemon in 2020 for $500 million. I was one of the founding trainers on their platform, was one of the most popular trainers on their platform. And so I got really involved with the online space with Mirror, as well as the advent of COVID, to figure out, is there a way to kind of cast your net wider on a business level to help out more folks out there in the world, across the world, right? Not just in, the New York City area, but across America and across different continents. And I was successful at that. It wasn't right away that I exactly knew what to do. I was in contract with Lululemon until January of 2024. But at that point, when my contract ended with them, I was like, hey, my non-compete's no longer there. I have a great track record. I love what I do. I love the business world. I love seeing people get fit and getting their max potential. So that's when I signed on for my own app. And I had no engineering background whatsoever on a computer level. But I knew how to run a business, and I hired the right folks to do that for me. And then the rest is kind of history. I made sure that I could offer the same sort of platform that I offered on Mirror, in Lululemon Studio, with live classes, on-demand classes for beginner, intermediate, and advanced level, trying to keep it basics, if you will. So you don't need, a bunch of gym equipment. You just need some dumbbells, some bands, and that sort of thing, and body weight. And the classes are all set up in different programs and different genres and that sort of thing, from strength or cardio or arms and abs or butt and legs. And, so you really know what you're getting into. And then the different
Mhm.
programs there as well. So like a 25-day jumpstart, I've never trained before. Where do I go? Well, like, go to the 25-day jumpstart, because you're going to get those habits built and being consistent over the course of, almost a month, basically, right there for yourself. And that'll help set that foundation. So then you might want to jump into the live classes after that. Maybe you want to go to a different program, but there's really a multitude of cool different avenues that people and the members can go down, depending on whatever they want. And plus, the cool part is it also has nutrition on there. So plant and meat-based diets are covered for you. And it's all set up with MyFitnessPal as well. So you pretty much know what you're eating. And what I found with nutrition is, over the years, it's motivational too. It doesn't necessarily need to be like 100% on point, but when you see like healthy food and it's set up in a beautiful format, and then you see that it's not that hard to make it, and it's not that super costly to get it done in that way, you know, um, hopefully it's motivational too. Maybe you're hitting 80% of that recipe, right? As long as you're not, adding bad things into it. So I was pretty proud of adding the nutrition on about a year ago as well, or a little over a year ago now, in the app as well, because I felt like, I wanted it to be a full 360, is all encompassing app where people could come and really hone in on their longevity and their health and nutrition in one fell space.
Awesome, dude. And yeah, where can people find it? Just if anyone heard that and is now interested.
Oh, sure. Of course. ChrisRyanFitness.com. It's also available in the App Store for Apple, as well as the Google Play Store for Android users. You can cast it in any smart TV or mobile device and laptop, iPads, whatever it is, cast everywhere. You can download it right to your iPhone and just cast it off to the bigger screens as well. And that's what most people do.
Sweet. Okay, so going into being like doing your own thing completely, how did that change the other parts of your life? Like, did you have to
Oh,
change the way that you kind of like interacted with your family or scheduled your time or structured other stuff?
yeah, for sure. I think that, when you work from home, you have a studio built out in your house. You really got to like make sure that your family respects the time that you have set forth, as if you are in a studio, right? So I actually have a little red sign that goes on. It says recording in progress. Like, don't come in. Like, if that's on the door, like, you just don't come in unless there's like the house is on fire or someone needs to call 911, you know? But I only put it on the door if like we're specifically recording, like for the app or like in a podcast, like right now, that sort of a thing, to where you want to be professional, and keep it at that. So, and with that said too, on the flip note, like I was saying earlier in the intro, I do have like 5 or 10 minutes that I could jump in with my family to do something, right? Like, you could go out and like take the garbage out or whatever. If you want to just, in your workday, you want to have these breaks. Like, maybe you've been cranking for a half hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. And you're just like, at some point, like, your endurance just kind of like lets out, and you're just like, it's like the water cooler, right? In the corporate office, like, you would walk to the water cooler, grab a coffee with a friend or somebody or colleague, and when you're working at home, you don't have that luxury. So it's like, oh, I'll take out the garbage, or I'll make a quick lunch or whatever. And I don't. The cool part is like, you can be very efficient in your time, is what I found, so that you do have those like little nuggets of time that maybe you're not able to like tuck your kids in at bed because you're working later in the evening during the bedtime hours. But you know what? Maybe you had that time with them after school and those witching hours of 3 o'clock that are super important. And they get to see you, you get to give them a hug, check in on their homework, and then like get back to work, that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, it's almost like you just get to kind of pick your own
Yeah.
when you get to do stuff.
I think it takes a highly disciplined individual to make it right. Cause I do know a lot of
Mhm.
people that, and I've always been an entrepreneur running my own businesses and stuff. So either you sink or swim as an entrepreneur. Like you got to be disciplined to be successful or you're just going to fail. Right. Like, and I understand like a lot of people, very high success people in the corporate world, clients or friends and that sort of thing are just like, they're like, I could never do that. Like I always need to know, like there's a structure, there's like all this
Mhm.
other stuff. And it's like, they're very good and honed in, which is tremendous on their own aspect. But like to be an entrepreneur and to be a successful entrepreneur at that, like it takes a ton of discipline and organization on your own end to make sure that, you're staying on top of things that need to get done. But you're also a human being at the end of the day and you figure out what's most important for you too. So yeah, do I have the flexibility of, saying, I don't need to do it. But guess what? If I don't do it, no one's going to do it, right? No one's going to drive that revenue if I don't drive that revenue, right? Or I don't shoot that class or, answer that member's question or Q&A or whatever it might be, or shoot the social media footage, the business won't grow. So it's a labor of love and a love of labor at the same time.
How do you prioritize? That's one of my struggles is, quitting my job last August and, setting out on my own is like, okay, like any business you run or work on, there's going to be a near infinite number of options of things that you could be working on. Like, oh, I could go
100%.
pursue this thing, see if that works. I could do this
Mhm.
thing. And there's points along my past, 8, 9 months where I just end up being like, what have I really done in the past 3 days? Like I've been working the whole time, but nothing really meaningful has come of it. So how do you actually find like, okay, what's the priority here? What should I
I
really
think,
be focused on?
yeah, I think that's very common. I think any entrepreneur and business person tends to fall in that little rabbit hole from time to time. And it's about like picking yourself up and pulling yourself out. And I like to think of things that are the golden hours. So like your golden hours, like whatever that business might be, your golden hours are something that you're client facing or you're generating revenue with either client calls, that sort of a thing, or you're doing something that adds revenue to the bottom line of the business, right? Those are your golden hours. The golden hours aren't necessarily 9 to 5, especially like on a Monday morning. You're probably not selling on Monday morning, right? Like for the most part, like if you're in like, well, a corporate type of sales or of any sort, like no one really wants to be bothered at like 9 a.m. on a Monday. That's pretty damn annoying. So
Mhm.
maybe your golden hours flex off a little bit more. Maybe they're like certain days of the week or certain times of the day that are more important for you. Maybe you live in America, but you deal with Europe or Asia. So like your golden hours are going to be very different than a normal 9 to 5 person in America, right? Working with only, a local clientele. But I think that like whatever your golden hours are to generate revenue, figure those hours out, figure those days of the week out. And then everything else along the lines, maybe some tasks like, a lot of things in this day and age of AI and all that, like, whereas like with accounts receivable, accounts payable, all that stuff, just running a day-to-day business, some of that stuff could be set aside for those like non-golden hours, right? So like the Monday morning at 9 a.m. or whatever it might be, or like maybe you have a commute that you do either on a train or a plane a lot, or something where you're not physically driving yourself, and you can set aside time with that if you have access to Wi-Fi. So I always think about like compartmentalize like what you can do. I love to do this with workouts too. Is sometimes you might only have 10 minutes to work out, or maybe you have a full hour, or maybe an hour and a half, or maybe you find yourself in a beautiful vista and you want to go for a trail run, or maybe you find yourself in a super cool gym and you want to hit like the power rack or whatever. So like figure out like what you have access to at that point in time and like compartmentalize like those little nuggets of time for like 15 minutes increments or 30-minute increments, whatever you feel you can do. And it's about that organization that I was talking about a little bit ago, is like, how can you be organized and micro-organized at the same time, right? And figure out like where those little blocks are most precious for yourself to get through that day to operate your business at the most efficient level.
Tell me a little bit about how being an athlete like carried over the things that you learned from being an athlete. How did that carry over
Uh,
into your adult life?
Great question. Big proponent of student athletes out there. I think if you have a chance to work with a student athlete as a business owner or hire anybody that comes from a student athletic background, I think you could go much worse. Put it that way. I think that they tend to be very disciplined, especially in this day and age. If you're competing at a Division I level in a sport, you're basically like taking a business trip quite a bit. You know, you're already like disciplined in the fact that like you're boarding a plane, flying across the country, time zones, and like competing at a super high physical level and mental level. And if they have good grades on top of that, like all the power to it. That person will outkick their coverage any day of the week compared to just a regular student, in my opinion. And I think take that for, weight in gold and run with it for sure.
So do you think that's the biggest pieces is just the fact that you had to be on top of like two different large pursuits at the same time?
Yeah, I love that. I never thought about that, like two different large pursuits at the same time. That is very appropriate. I might put that one back here for myself in a next talk. But yeah, I think so. It's about like, being able to juggle things, and it's physical and mental, right? So mental is studying, trying to get your degree in college, that sort of a thing, and trying to be the best student possible. Meet the right people, shake the right people's hands, get in the right internships and all that, right? But then at the same time, you have the sports side that you have to practice. You usually have set regimented hours, and you're physically competing at a super, super high level. This is not high school sports, right? Like this is at an extremely high level, where 1% of the high schoolers are competing at Division I level, and some sports are maybe less, depending on the sport itself. But just using those numbers real quick, it's pretty high that most people can't or won't be able to compete at a Division I level. Yeah, and if you're competing at a Division I level and then you're a good student on top of it, you have some highly organized individuals at that point to really, be their best self, And I do think that you can't just be a good athlete. You got to have the good grades, show that discipline there as well in the classroom, meeting the people, shaking the hands, looking for the internships and that sort of a thing that really get out there for yourself and put yourself out there in the right foot.
Okay, tell me about like a view or an opinion on life, a way that you live your life that maybe is different from the typical human being or the typical American, fill in the blank there.
Okay, that's a good question too. I love it. So, how do I live life? I think I live a disciplined life. It might not sound sexy or like fun, but I do think that it's a fun life. I do love being like a husband, a father. I love, I'm very proud of my family. I'm proud of my wife. I'm proud of my kids. I'm proud of myself. And I think that a lot of that comes from discipline. I just feel like I learned discipline at a young age from my mom and dad. Being in sports at a young age, being disciplined to study to get to a certain level in life and education as well. And I think like without discipline, it's just kind of like marshmallowy, if you will, like where it's just kind of like free flow. It's soft. It doesn't really mean anything. But I think when you can add discipline into any endeavor, you're going to be successful. How successful that comes into other plays of like, well, did you study the right curriculum in undergrad or in graduate school? Did you meet the right folks? Did you take the right internships? Did you have enough get up and go and drive to like get out there and put yourself out there? But I think like that basic foundation is being disciplined. And that also goes along in the health and fitness side of things that I specialize in as far as like the most successful individuals, the ones that are going to have the best longevity for their own lives are the most disciplined people. They might not be the best athlete, right? Sometimes they're not. Like just because some people just have so much raw talent, but they're not disciplined. There's nothing worse to see as a coach and like that I've seen over the years of somebody that's just got it all physically and they just can't put it together for whatever reasons. Sometimes it's almost too much to be too good too soon or like have too many physical gifts. It's fun to like actually like work at it a little bit and have that little extra kind of like, punch in the face or, if you will, or like that extra grit that you have to have in life that just makes it that much sweeter when you actually do win and become successful.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what discipline means to you. Because I think this is like a scary word to some people.
Hmm.
It's become that like there's this like, oh, discipline is like means life sucks. And it's just like you have
Yeah.
to do it when you hate it. So tell
Yeah,
me a
I
little
think
bit
it's
about like what actually is discipline.
feel like it's when you give up something now, right? In the now, that is more of a want, you know,
Mhm.
versus saying, I'm going to take care of myself. That's more of a need, right? So let's say you want to have a beer, right? And just kick back and watch TV tonight and just chill and watch a game. But you know you need to work out, right? So sometimes, or you know you need to eat healthy or drink water, back to hydration, right? Instead of having that beer, right? And it's not that having that one beer or watching that game or watching that TV show is inherently bad, but there's better choices to be had along the way. Probably would be better to drink some water, probably would be better to at least work out first, right? And then relax and then do that thing, whatever it
Mhm.
is, you know. But you got to think about like, what do you really need to do to be your best self?
Right. It's almost like decision making that doesn't just like prioritize right now over everything else.
Exactly. And you know, unfortunately, we live in this like very much of like a 3 second world with media and hooks and all this other stuff, and you know, Insta famous people out there promoting a lifestyle that's not in the cards because it's a very fake life for
Mhm.
99.9% of the people, you know, and the amount of things that you see online of like this person like next to a Rolls Royce, like everyone drives a Rolls Royce, right? You know, like I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
even if you can afford it, do you really want to drive a Rolls Royce? Like I mean, you know, I don't think I would want to drive a Rolls Royce. Like I'd rather drive like a really badass like muscle car from like the like late 60s, early 70s, you know, give it up to my you know, Michigan roots right there. But like I feel like, you know, just because it looks like a certain part of like what people think is successful online, you know, it
Mhm.
just drives me nuts. So I feel like, you know, you kind of gotta sift through the BS and really like get down to like the understanding of what that true foundational pattern is for people in this day and age.
Okay. So you've mentioned this a few times. Tell me about what it's like to be a dad.
All right, yeah, the best. It's challenging, but I think challenges are good for you. Obviously no playbook. Like you don't doesn't it was funny when we had our so we have a 11-year-old son, a 9-year-old daughter, and a 3-year-old son. And it's like, you know, like when you first become a parent, like you're like you go to the hospital with your wife, she's in labor, and then like a couple days later you come home with a baby. It's like who 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 allows this? You know what I mean? You're like,
Mhm.
it
Right.
doesn't
Right.
when you actually like kind of think about it for a second, you're like, I know nothing about this. And I always said people that are, you know, have far less resources in life. I say this to a lot of new dads. It's kind of like a tongue in cheek joke. And like, cause they're like, oh, you look like you got it all together. I'm like, you know, and like you got this great family and everything else. I'm like, hey, look, people with far less resources and far less education and, you know, have had children 10,000 plus years ago, right? So like, let's just think about that for a second, you know? Because
Mhm.
I think in this day and age, like sometimes the more resources you have or the more education you have, you kind of like overthink things. You're like, well, how can I like make this happen? I'm like, dude, we were doing this for thousands of years, like as like humans. Like one way or another, we were all born in caves at some point and like, you know, kind of like figuring out life and like had a fire to stay warm and a fur to like throw over us or whatever. And we knew that we had to get mom from milk, you know, or milk from mom's breast at some point. And like we realized like there's a lot of things that like, okay, like, you know, like it's very complex and very simple at the same time, you know? But I just think it like being a dad is just like the coolest thing in the world. I love being a dad. It's challenging, but I don't think there's anything more rewarding in life. And like at the end of the day, it's just like to see, you know, a little bit of you and your wife and maybe your parents or your in-laws, your siblings in them. It's just so cool to see. Like I just think it's so fun. And to see their little bodies and minds grow over the course of time. And, you know, I have it figured out at least till they're 11 years old. You know, we haven't ventured into the deep teenage years yet. That might be more intimidating than potty training, from what I understand from a lot of the parents that have teenagers. But you know, I'm geared up for it. I might just have to put the eye black on and tighten up the chin strap a little bit there. But you know, I'm geared up for it for sure.
Yeah. It's funny. Like adopting a child, it's like there's like a whole screening process, and it's like actually hard to get. But then
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
anybody can, you just have a kid. No one stops you.
I know. It's like, where's the
It is kind of
directions? I
funny.
kept on looking underneath the car seat for the directions and how to raise a child. I couldn't find them. I just had to figure it out. But that's what's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ask people, you like lean on people like in your network, your parents, like your grandparents, whomever, your in-law. Like, it does take a village, I think, at the time. And then you kind of figure it out and you realize like you look back at things and you like sweat it out, these like small big decisions or big small decisions. And like you realize like, okay, like that it's okay. Like you don't have to be perfect. You just gotta be
Mhm.
there and be present for your kids as much as possible. And you're already winning at that point. You really are.
Right. What is something you're currently struggling with?
I think currently struggling with, I think this is gonna be kind of funny. I think social media and how you present yourself on social media and the changing of algorithms all the time by the different mechanisms out there, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, and it's very frustrating. I've always been kind of more of like a handshake type guy. Look people in the eye and be as personable as possible. And I realize that the best thing I can do is just be as personable as possible in anything I do in social media. And so if I can get past that point, but the idea of sometimes of like, oh God, I got to shoot more social media. And I know it's a necessary evil for myself, but it's just one of those things that I feel like, you know, um, the world was different back before social media, in certain
Mhm.
ways. And nowadays it's, with the advent of AI and everything else that's coming our way, it's a changing marketplace, right? But you do have to stay abreast because if not, you're going to be like left behind. But I do think that taking those like old world values of like the handshake and the look in the eye, and if you can put those into your own social media, you might not physically be able to shake someone's hand, but you can present yourself in a way that just feels extremely authentic. And I think that
Mhm.
that is what helps people out at the end of the day versus trying to be something you're not.
Yeah, that's hard. That's like a tricky problem. I mean, it sounds great being like, okay, yeah, be more like authentic on camera and
Mhm.
let the, talk directly to your
Yeah.
viewer. Have you found like ways to actually go about this?
Yeah, I think just practice. I think it's just do it.
Mhm.
Like I think the more often that it's like anything physical in life, like whatever you want to do. If you want to like get stronger, you're gonna have to lift some weights, right? Like, progressive overload, if you will, right? Where it's just like, oh wow, I talked for 5 seconds on camera and I sweated in my butt off and I was so nervous for five
Mhm.
seconds. But then like and I uploaded it and 10 people watched it or whatever, and like no one really thought twice of it because everyone's so busy about their own day. Like,
Yes.
don't overthink it. And
Right,
then
right.
it's just like, and then it's so funny. Like sometimes you'll spend all this time editing and making sure it's all perfect and like everything, and then other times you just do like a really like user generated content video, and it's just like that got 10,000 more views than the other one that was like all edited perfect, and you were sweating it out with a script and all this crap, and you used AI to help you out versus just like shooting off the cuff of like, hey, this is what I thought about XYZ subject. And people like end up liking that a lot more. So it's just I feel like the more authentic you can be and the less you overthink it and the more you do it, the better off you will be. Just like
Mhm.
anything. And it's a physical medium, right? Like where that's the one cool part about it is like AI's is good up to a point, maybe to help you like edit a little bit more efficiently or script things, maybe some template style. But at the end of the day, like you are like you do come across either in a positive way for this person or a negative way for this person. And sometimes like it maybe even the jarring stuff is like good too, because like maybe you're just going against the grain on a thought process of how to do an overhead press correctly or whatever. And then you get like all the internet trolls out there saying that's not right, or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but like it's just so funny. And like I think at the end of the day too, is you got to realize that there's a bunch of internet trolls out there that are just gonna be internet trolls no matter what. And you wish them well in life, but you just kind of gotta like be water off a duck's back with those folks and just kind of like move on. Cause if your message is clear, concise, and like to the point and positive, and I feel like it's value add for the people, you'll find your marketplace for sure, whatever that product or need to challenge to solve is going to be for that person at the end of the day.
Right. Have you had internet trolls come
Oh
for
God,
you?
yeah. Yeah, all the time, all the time. And that's why it's like at this point I have like a super thick skin. Like I don't
Mhm.
I think if you like can public speak or media speak in any sort of like podcast platform or put yourself out there in life, you just kind of got to be like, yeah, Like, just like, that's just like Jimmy in his mom's basement. I just kind of make up
Right.
names in the back of your head and like just move on, like wish him well, you know? I don't have enough to
Yep.
like actually like, I know like big mega influencers that will like actually like talk to them and like figure life out with them or whatever, you know? And I'm like, I can't. I can't. I'm like, I'm just like, you know, sometimes I'll just hit delete or block. I just don't have time to deal with their shit, you know?
Right.
So it's
Right.
just like, whatever. But occasionally, like maybe it is, if it's thought provoking, because no one's ever 100% right on something, right? Like there's, especially I feel like in the training world, there's a bunch of different ways to do things right, depending on what that use is for, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe a certain type of squat is better for a senior citizen than a collegiate athlete or a football player or a power lifter, right? Like there's a whole host of things. But what's funny is like if you post like uh track and field athlete, for instance, doing squats. Maybe they're doing quarter squats for a certain reason, just because of enough force generation to the ball or foot. But if you get these trolls out there that come from like the bodybuilding world or the powerlifting world, that's like, that's not a full range of motion, you know, and like they're like, well, I know, but they're not trying to do a full range of motion. They're trying to get a certain CNS initiation factor through like ankle stiffness for a certain reason in their hip and their foot and everything else, like for a certain you know, power production, which those
Mhm.
folks don't know anything about. And or you might just have some like 20-year-old guy that like just loves to load plates on and do quarter squats that has no business doing quarter squats, and he'd benefit highly from a full range of motion, you know. Um and you'd be like, dude, you should like squat fully and just like take off like 6 of those plates and like lower the weight and like lower the ego a little bit too. And I think that has its place as well. And then maybe like a senior citizen shouldn't do free squats. Maybe they should do box squats or squat down to a bench or a chair, or maybe do quarter squats or something like that, down to some pins, whatever it might be. And like, you got to figure out for that individual. And I think sometimes like when you present things online, it can just like throw off like a ton of different, you know, haymakers in a bunch of different directions to certain people that get so offended by it. But if they actually like take the time to read the context and understand the video, I mean, I see so many positive things online for some really awesome, you know, PhDs or doctors or orthos or like high level trainers that are very thought provoking and just a different way to do something. And like they just get grilled, and you see the comments and you're just like, oh my God, like why do people even comment on this? Like they don't understand the context of why this video was even shot in the first place. And they're you could tell they put a lot of time and effort into like whatever the thought process was to show like this is a different way of doing something, and they talk about it, right? And I'm
Mhm.
just like, you know, God bless those people, and I hope they keep at it and like keep on challenging the norms of the world, and the internet trolls out there. I just like, you know what, go find another rock to crawl under.
Yeah, there's almost like there's a weird impulse where it's like I want to explain it so that they understand it, but they're not even interested in listening. Like
Yeah,
they
and
just
then
saw something quickly, and then
totally.
we're like,
I
oh,
know,
here's my
and then
first
you're like,
reaction.
you're wasting your time and energy and like to like talk to these people, and you're like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
I don't even need to do that in the first place, you know, because like they don't even care. And like, why do I care more than they care? And like they're just trying to like
right.
get a rise out of me. So you know, and truthfully, like I love to educate people too. Like, and I do think that there are so many different ways to train properly depending on that individual. And that's why like I developed the app to cast that wide net possible. I have like different setup for like a beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and like really cool workout. And but I train with you while we're doing it. It's not just like here's 3 reps of like whatever move, and then do 10 reps, and then like go to B and then C, and then like it just kind of loops through like a video or whatever. It's like a 30-minute video. I am there live with you working out, and I am explaining why we're doing what we're doing. Might tell a dumb joke along the way and you have to listen to it or whatever. But in general, it makes it for a great community, great camaraderie. And it's more of like a boutique studio fitness experience rather than just kind of like an app experience, right?
Mhm. Yeah, there's something about the live and then also knowing other people are doing it at the same time too. Like, oh,
100%.
other people are
100%.
following along with him as well.
Yeah.
That
But I
changes
always
it
tell
for
people like
sure.
the best workout you do is the one that you actually do, because just like any
Yeah.
app, like 95% of the workouts are taken on demand. And that's the same true with ours. It's just like, and that's great because there's like 700 plus on demand workouts to choose from, and it's growing every week, right? But at the same time, all those workouts were shot live. So it almost feels like you're in a live. And sometimes people will take
Mhm.
in a live workout, or excuse me, an on demand workout that they had previously taken like 6 months or a year before that was a live workout. And they're like, oh, I got a shout out again from that workout or whatever, They're like, I must have taken that workout at some point. So it's kind of funny for them. It's like a little like gift along the way. They're like, wait, that's my screen name handle or whatever, So it
Yep,
makes for a fun little time, for them to be in there as well.
for sure. What does your dream life look like?
God, my dream life, I think I might be living it, as cheesy as that sounds. I mean, I think like other than maybe having a vacation house in the mountains, like I think that's it. No, I mean, we live in a fantastic area. We have a great school district that our kids go to. I have the most amazing wife in the world. I have the three most awesome kids. I feel like if I could just freeze time at time, I feel like that kind of shows you like that's your best life possible. I do feel like, my dad passed away last year. My perfect life would be have him around still. It sucks that like, I don't hear his 20-second phone call with some joke and like just like we never talked on the phone for more than a couple minutes at a time, but just to check in on things like, a score of a game or whatever, just like call up to complain about like delivery guy being late or whatever, I don't know, just like those things that like an old man would like call about.
Uh-huh.
But I think like that setup, like time is precious and time is finite, we're not here forever, and I feel like make the days count for sure,
Hmm.
because they're
Yeah.
limited, they really are. Like hopefully it's thousands and thousands of days ahead for me, right? But like it could go today or tomorrow, whatever, and like you just don't know. So I do feel like, not to sound morbid or like sad, but I do think like, truly like making those days count that you have, and like realize that you only get like one shot at this life, and like don't worry if you fail at something or fail multiple times at something, I mean, there's so many times that like you hear about uber successful people starting later in life or failing many times in their life, and then finally getting that right, and then just like hitting you know a home run out of the park. And like hats off to those people. I love being the resiliency that people show in life, and I feel like you don't necessarily have to peak at 25 years old. Like I think there's, in this day and age of the internet and the information age that we find ourselves in, and the new AI age that we find ourselves in, if like you're not a multimillionaire by the age of 30, you're like a loser. Well, I don't know. I think I feel like it's a long game. And like you look at even the most successful investor of all time, Warren Buffett, and he's like, the power of just kind of showing up and hitting base hits, and the power of compounding financials, or you compounding your health, compounding your life, and what that entails. I think there's a lot of amazing things in there, because even like he said, he goes, yeah, he started investing early on, but like I forget whatever it was, like most of his wealth was created in the last like 20 or 30 years of his life, because he had built such a nice little foundation of himself going along the way. But I forget, like even in his like 20s, he wasn't like a multimillionaire, if I recall, the way people think of
Yeah, I
him as
believe he
Warren Buffett. It
I would
was
have to
like,
look
you
up the
actually look at it,
numbers.
it was a J curve, but I remember reading it, and he goes, I'm as rich as I am because I lived to be in my 90s, you know? And there's truth in that. Like you can actually like run that analysis. Like if he would have died at 65, he would nowhere, like people would have been like, oh, that one guy that was really successful back in like, the 60s through the 80s or whatever.
Hmm.
But like he wouldn't be the way that he was in our knowledge from like the 90s through the 2020 timeframe, right? Because like he wouldn't have lived that long. And so he wouldn't have compounded all that wealth that much. And I do think like, don't worry about like being so successful early on. Worry about like setting yourself up for the right things along the way. I had bought and sold a business in my 20s, and I had sold a business at 28 that was very successful. It was a brick and mortar property restoration business with my brother. And then I took a mini retirement for 6 months, and I traveled the world and saw soccer games over in Europe and in Germany and in London. And I skied in Japan. I surfed in Brazil. I traveled the world and had a ton of fun. It was a great little mini retirement. But by no means was I felt like, oh, that was it for me. I wanted to like do things that I loved, and I loved health and wellness and training and everything else. And so I built another business around that, something I was much more passionate about rather than property restoration work. Um, but I learned a lot about hiring and firing employees and building a team, and the right team, and being a leader in sales and marketing and accounts receivable, and human resources and everything else along the way of building a business for 20 plus employees. So it was great. But at the same time, I feel like that wasn't my end all be all. I had a lot more to give and something I was much more passionate about and build another thing from scratch. And that's what I did with Chris Ryan Fitness. So I was very happy and proud of that as well.
Awesome, dude. It's a great way to close it out. Do you want to call out your app one more time and then just any other place that people can find you?
Yeah, sure thing. Chris Ryan Fitness is the name of the app. It's available in the app stores for Apple and Google Play Store for Android users. It's available at chrisryanfitness.com. You can do a 7-day free trial for 100% free access for anyone out there. I believe that you should be able to kick the tires of something before you buy it. So it's one of those things that I'm extremely proud of. And also, I'm available at chrisryanfitness.com is my email address. And also, you can get me at Instagram at Chris Ryan Fitness, LinkedIn, YouTube, all Chris Ryan Fitness. See me on all my social channels there as well. So please connect with me. Love to hear from you. And if I can help you out in your own fitness, health, and longevity goals, be sure to make it happen.
Awesome, dude. Thanks for coming on. That's all we got.
This has been great. Thank you so much for having me, Will.
For sure. Bye, everybody.